All right, today we're going to look at shape, form, and I guess just shape and form. We'll look at space in another slideshow. So let's do this. All right, shape is a two-dimensional area defined in some way. It can either be by an outline or a silhouette. And in these Paleolithic paintings, you can see a lot of outlines of these animals, but you can also see some silhouettes in there too. The Neolithic figures all have our silhouettes. Geometric shapes are precise shapes that can be described using mathematical formulas. For example, four equal sides and four right angles makes a square. I think the mathematical formula for a circle is pi r squared or something like that. Anyways, these are all mathematical precision shapes that makes them geometric, and you can find those on you can find geometric shapes on the Italian churches that are in late antiquity, or late not late antiquity but the late medieval era. You can find you can see the squares and other circles that are in the Etruscan tombs, circles and half circles. So you can talk about the geometric quality of some of these shapes. You can see the circle that creates the shape here, the circles and the squares that are in Mesoamerican sculpture, the triangular nature of the arch that is above the city gates, the triangular nature of the pediments, the geometric shapes that are in the doors of um, uh, the painted doors of the first style in, or is it the second style? I think it's the second style in the Pompeii interior decoration. And there's a lot of geometric forms or shapes that are in the Native American pottery. Freeform means it's irregular and uneven shapes, often found in nature. So, like the shape of a cloud is freeform, the shape of a tree, the shape of a dog, the shape of a person. These are all freeform shapes, and we see a lot of that in the ancient art as well. You know, not only the shape of the bull is freeform, but also the shapes of the spots that are in on him, and the shapes of the people are freeform shapes. We can have even these slightly geometric forms, but they don't prescribe to any sort of mathematical formula, so they tend to be a little bit free form. The free form shapes that are on the Apollo 11 stones, the free form shapes of the Neolithic cave paintings, the shapes of the steles, and the shapes of the hands. These are all free form shapes, and the shapes of the animals that are painted in Paleolithic caves. All right, the early Roman figures are look very silhouette like. The Greek vases have freeform shapes on them. The shapes of the Minoan murals are very freeform. A form is an object having three dimensions. So if you have a geometric form, that would be like a sphere or a pyramid or a cone or a cylinder or a cube. And we can find these pyramid shapes in throughout all of uh, uh, the ancient world. The pyramids in Mexico, the pyramids in Egypt, Mayan and Aztec pyramids, and then the cube shapes of the temples on top of the ziggurats from the Mesopotamian era. The cylinder of the Tower of Jericho is a geometric form, and the cylinders of the columns are geometric. The cylinder of the vase and the pantheon is filled with references to geometric forms like the sphere that creates the inner dome and the cylinder that holds up that inner dome and the box and the triangle uh, forms that are on and the triangle is more like a prism than it would be like a pyramid, but that is on the portico of the pantheon. We can see the box and like the cubic shape, the cylinder shape, and that prism. And I say shapes, I mean forms, but the the box form, the prism form. You can even see the cylinder forms of the rotunda as well as uh, the columns. These cycladic figures have a lot of triangular forms in them as well. The cubeness of the uh, Egyptian sculptures, holding the spheres. You can find these geometric forms throughout all of the ancient world. The cube, little tiny cube shapes, as well as the cylinder shapes that are intertwined here. And then with organic forms, it's that those are more natural forms, like the form of the green pepper here on the right. And we can definitely see that in the Venus of Willendorf, these organic forms of the human body. And the form that flows around his knees and his shoulders is very organic. The form of the giant colossal heads of the Olmecs. And then the forms that comprise the animals, the lion gate, and the rock formations, the forms that create Stonehenge. And then the forms, the fabric that wraps around the forms of the human figure. These are organic forms. We see any kind of human form would be an organic form. That it's not prescribed by a geometry and mathematics, but all of human forms are organic. The snake definitely has the organic forms, and once again, the fabric drapes around the forms of the human figure. So, what different shapes, forms, and spaces express, curved shapes and forms have a more comfortable and soothing to the eye. So, the motherliness of the Venus of Willendorf comes to mind, and the fertility goddess is a lot more comforting with these round forms rather than sharp angles. The forms of the vase are comfortable to look at. They're pleasant. They're pleasing to the eye. And then the form of the octopus. So the shape of the octopus is very organic, and it conforms to the form of the vessel. Once again, the vessels are quite pleasant to look at. And here we have like a contrast between the sharp lines, the straight lines, the sharp angles of the geometric pattern that is on top of an organic form. Right, and there's a wonderful curve that is on the back of this bull, creates a pleasing curving shape. The curving forms of the long necked monsters there creates an interesting form to look at. And then zigzag shapes and forms remind us of the viewer of sharp, jagged things that are painful. And geometric shapes and forms express mechanical perfection and are unemotional. So the sharp, jagged lines that are on this form, like I said before, it creates a nice contrast between the sharp, jagged shapes, and the pleasing form of the overall vase. The geometric shapes have a mechanical perfection in this. Once again, the geometrical shapes have a mechanical perfection. And you can even see the patterns that are in the checkerboard up there, that it's not just a black and white checkerboard, but there's other like more subtle patterns or a more complex pattern. Well, I'm looking at all of these. All right. Density is the degree of compactness of a substance. So, as a very dense sculpture is not open. It doesn't invite you in. All you can see is the surface of it. You cannot see inside, or you cannot see. There's no. It doesn't explore the space around it. So dense materials and closed shapes form and forms are solid and heavy, and they seem unyielding. They refer to protection, and they tell us to stay away, to stay out. So think of closed doors or closed drapes. So we can see that in ancient Mesoamerican art with this sculpture here, that it close. All we can see is the surface of it. It does not invite us in like a Brancusi sculpture. You can just see the outside. But that's second semester. And here are open sculptures on the right, on the upper right, or on the top. We can see inside of it. We can see through it, and it invites us to visually play with the shapes that are on the inside of the sculpture. Whereas on the bottom three, we can only see the outside. It's very dense. It doesn't explore the space around it. So, for example, there's two buildings right here. The one on the left, the upper left, is very closed. It looks like there's a lot of secrets in there. And then the one in the lower right, you cannot have any secrets in that building because it is all open and it is all, we can see through it. So, when we talk about the art of the first semester, the Stele of Hammurabi is definitely a very closed sculpture. It is does not invite us in, and also the cuneiform on the outside really talks to the surface quality of it. So it's just, it's not letting us past that surface. This one is very open. It has, holes on the inside, allows us to visually explore all the inner shapes and intricacies, and it makes it a little bit more fun to look at. This is very closed. The arms are folded in, and he's not exploring the space around him. Definitely closed. We can definitely see and focus on the surface quality of the sculpture. It does not invite us to look on the inside. Another closed sculpture. We're just focusing on the surface quality of it. Again, closed sculpture looks very heavy and solid. These are all closed sculptures. The arms are tucked onto the chest to keep it closed. It does not open up the. And here's a good example of the one on the left is very open. The one on the right is very closed. The one on the left, the arms are out, the legs are out, and it is exploring the space around it. But the figure on the right is very closed. It's even wrapped up. It's not allowing us to see inside. Again, very closed sculpture, definitely closed. It looks big and heavy and does not invite us in. A closed sculpture, very closed sculpture. These guys are open, their arms are out, their legs are moving. They're inviting us in to explore the space visually. Uh, Open shapes that we have here with the dancers on the right, but the musicians on the left are very closed. Definitely open. The Christ is his arms are open. He's inviting us in, but the two figures on the left and the right are very closed. All these figures are very closed. They're not allowing us in. All these figures are closed. And that'll finish us for looking at the shapes and forms in the first semester.